I'm going to teach you exactly how I design products to sell online. If you're serious about starting an e-commerce business, this video is for you. Welcome to another episode of Step by Step, a video series on my channel where I go into deep detail on exactly how to bootstrap your very own e-commerce business. My name is Spencer. I'm an e-commerce entrepreneur and I'm the co-founder of Solo Stove, a company that started in a garage and last year did over $130 million in revenue. First off, know this, I have absolutely nothing to sell you. I make these videos because I want to help people bootstrap an e-commerce business. If I can do it, so can you, and I'm going to help you as much as I can. Now hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. It actually took me a while to learn that people who design products for a living are called industrial designers. I'm definitely not one, but I've proven you don't need a degree to design a product that you can sell online. That said, let me talk a little bit about industrial designers before we get into it, because I have used them, but only after my company was large enough and had enough money in it to let us experiment a little bit. Working with a design firm or hiring an industrial designer are valid ways to design a product you can eventually sell online. But from my experience, here are the drawbacks of working with a professional industrial designer. One, the most obvious is that it costs a lot. And if you're like me, when you're starting out, you just don't have the money to spend. If you don't know, I'm all about bootstrapping a company. So if it costs a lot, I'm gonna find another way. See the furniture and decor behind me? It's from IKEA. Two, industrial designers don't always understand how manufacturing works. I ran around China for almost a decade working for factories. I've seen the types of machines that are used in all sorts of different factories. Being able to understand what can and can't be done from a manufacturing standpoint, it's super important. So designers may create something awesome on paper, then when they try to get it made, your supplier basically tells you it's impossible to make, and this can be super frustrating. Three, in my own experience, I've had industrial designers design a product only for me to later figure out that the way they designed it costs way too much. They might not understand the cost differences between types of materials, or perhaps how much manual labor is involved. Or they might have designed a product that has components that are prone to have a very high defective rate. In the end, if the product costs too much, you can't sell it for the price you need to. The margins won't be there, and that's always been a deal breaker for me. I never sell anything that doesn't let me make the margins I need. Four, there's a learning curve to working efficiently with industrial designers. Like anything, it takes time to get good at. And if they're charging you by the hour, which was my experience, the extra back and forth can get costly pretty fast. Not to mention the other delays caused by the steep learning curve. Designing a product is one thing, but managing a person designing the product, it's a whole nother skill set. And lastly, number five, industrial designers usually aren't well versed in the nuances of e-commerce. They're not thinking about everything else that needs to be considered when it comes to selling something online. Things like how small the item needs to be packaged. Will the product be easily damaged? Where is the product going to be stored? Does the product need to be assembled? How heavy is the product? And so on. Don't get me wrong, industrial designers can design really good products, but they're not a silver bullet solution by any means, which is good because I'm going to tell you how I design products without industrial designers. First off, remember we're bootstrapping. We don't want to spend a lot of money designing products, so we need to get extra creative. I love working on product design. In all my years of building e-commerce companies, it's one of my favorite things to do. So have some fun with this. The first step is obviously to brainstorm. If you watched my other video where I talked about what to sell online, you'll remember that everything is a remix. I borrow this concept from a guy named Kirby Ferguson. He gave a TED Talk and showed how movies, music, and art all borrow heavily from the past. Things that seem new and novel are just really remixes of the past. So don't think you need to invent something that doesn't currently exist. Think of it as coming up with a new version of something that already exists, like a better mousetrap, so to speak. And this will help it feel way less daunting. Next, write down all your passions, hobbies, interests, and areas of curiosity. This is a great place to start because these are areas you're familiar with, which means you have a little bit more insight and probably more opinions on products in these areas. And it's a huge bonus if you design a product that you actually use or at least like. If you've never golfed or hate golf, don't design a golf product just because someone tells you there's a ton of money in golf. If you're still brainstorming what niche to start in, walk around your home. Go into every room in your house, including the garage. Look around and go through products that you've bought in the past. This might lead you down some rabbit holes. Another idea for brainstorming is to go walk through a lot of stores. Walk around Home Depot or visit the marine store if you're into boating. Visit Cabela's or Bass Pro if you like the outdoors. Visit Home Goods if you're into decor, and so on. Visit stores not to shop, but to brainstorm. When you finally got a product that you want to remix, here's what to do. First off, any product you design needs to solve a problem. Answer this question now. What problem does your product solve? Simple enough, but super important. If it's not a problem that people have, nobody will buy it. Next, start brainstorming ideas of how to improve the product. And by improving, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to add more onto the product. It may, but I usually like to go the opposite route. I like to think of ways to make the product more simple. I think a lot of people default to coming up with ideas how to make something do more. I try to think of how something can do less or be designed with less, because customers generally don't like complicated products. They might think they do, but what I've found is that if it's simple to use, they have a good experience. But if they need a manual to talk them through complex products or learn how it works, it's usually a bad experience. So think how to simplify products. It's also helpful too that making a simple product is easier on the manufacturing front as well. This can be the difference between getting something made and not. Simple just helps you set yourself up for a greater chance of success. Complicated products do exactly that, tend to complicate. Think through the functionality of your product first. I've found that while aesthetics are important, it's going to be more important that your product does the job it's supposed to do. It needs to work. A good-looking product that doesn't work will die. Think through improving the functionality, make it work better. One way to work on the functionality is to combine features from a number of different products, like a Frankenstein product, but in a good way. Take the handle from one product, add in a hook and a ring from another, borrow the legs from one product and pair it with a lid from another. Mixing and matching is a great way to design products to sell. Now, if you're working on soft goods like bags or clothing, mixing and matching is a great way to think about how to design your own product. You might like a zipper from one bag and then want to use it on a backpack you're making. Make sure to spend lots of time on functionality. You could spend weeks or months on this, so take your time. Then move on to what materials you want to use. Again, borrow from other products that are out there. Go to the store and buy items so you can touch and feel different materials. Or if you're cheap like me, buy it all on Amazon so that you have 30 days to touch and feel it. Then return them all except for the ones that you want to keep after you figure out what materials you like. You're welcome. The good part about doing it this way is that when you're borrowing materials from other products, you already know that these materials are readily available to manufacturers. So there's a high probability your manufacturer will be able to deliver what you're looking for. Materials for your handle could be wood, plastic, or silicone. Find what metals you like: copper, stainless steel, aluminum, and so on. There are a ton of materials out there, so mix it up. Once you've dialed in the functionality of materials, then you can move on to aesthetics. What colors and finishes do you want? Be careful here to not go overboard. Depending on what your product is, it's probably best to keep it simple, meaning less variations like color and size. 90% of the goal is for it to work, not necessarily to be available in 30 different colors or finishes. There's another good book called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. If you have the time, borrow that one from the library. The gist of it is that having less choice is better, and I can speak from experience that this is a super powerful idea. Also remember to consider your branding. I need to make a lot of videos on branding, but this is important. What branding elements do you want on your product? Think about your logos and colors. Okay, you've worked on functionality, materials, and aesthetics. Now it's time to draw everything out the best you can on paper. This will help you think through all the little details and keep your thoughts organized. I am a horrible artist, but I always drew it out. Don't worry if it looks horrible, just do it. You'll eventually need to come back to your drawings in future steps. Once you have the initial ideas of what the product does and how it looks, and you have it all drawn out, move on to prototyping. This sounds expensive, like we're going to start using 3D printers, but it doesn't have to be. When I worked in China sourcing products for other companies, you'd be surprised at the prototypes we received. A lot of them were just handmade and looked horrible, but they served their purpose. Prototypes are just to help illustrate the functionality, size, material, and so on. It helps you touch and feel and get a sense of the product. It helps you visualize it, and more importantly, helps others visualize it, like your suppliers. So how do you make the prototype? You don't need any 3D printers or anything sophisticated. When we were designing products at Solo Stove, we would gather up cardboard boxes, paper, cutting blades, and shipping tape. If you want to go get fancy, go get some foam core boards and two-sided tape. Think arts and crafts here. Use the products you've gathered and cut or break them apart, then Frankenstein them all back together. And if you're dealing with soft goods, borrow a sewing machine or get a used one off of Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. You get the idea here. Just make do with what you have and make the best prototype you can. Oh, I forgot to mention packaging. At some point, you need to figure out packaging. This helps you to figure out the shipping costs, not only from the supplier to you, but your shipping costs from you to your customer. And shipping costs to your customers is one of your biggest expenses, so think through the packaging as early as you can. Figure out the size of the box you'll need to package the product. Again, your supplier will need to know what you want, so spend some time on the dimensions and material. I will say that while beautiful packaging is nice, it's not absolutely necessary. And if you're not at the point of ordering a lot of product, it's difficult for suppliers to get custom-made packaging because their suppliers have minimums as well. So consider brown or white boxes with stickers. That's how we started at Solo Stove. Since people are buying online, what the box looks like doesn't really matter. You can improve on the packaging later. Okay, prototyping and packaging done. Now what? Generally speaking, you need to get organized and ready to work with suppliers. You need to prepare the following. You need a spec sheet of your product. Remember that beautiful drawing you made? This is where you need to use it. Your spec sheet is used to show your supplier what you want made. On it, you need to include the following: every single dimension of the product. If you're working with suppliers outside of the US, remember to use millimeters and centimeters. Don't use inches. Only us crazy Americans use the imperial system. Everyone else uses the metric system. Remember to be detailed. Every dimension is needed. You also need to list out the materials you want each part to be. You can create a legend that references the different types of materials so it's easier to understand. If you get far enough along, you'll be sending material samples to your suppliers so they can understand exactly what you want. You need packaging details on there as well. What are the dimensions of the box? Are there any protective materials inside the box? Is the product in a plastic bag and then put into the box? How is the box sealed? Are there any labels or stickers required on the box? If your product is small, how many small boxes do you want in a larger box? We often call these master cartons. Your spec sheet needs to have every little detail possible on there so there are no questions as to what you want. The more detailed, the better. Once you have your prototype done and spec sheet made, that's it. You're ready to start working with suppliers and get the product you designed quoted and made so that you can start selling online. I'll be sure to make future videos about finding, evaluating, and working with suppliers. That's a deep topic. We'll save that for another day. Remember that you always want to do your best, but don't be a perfectionist to the point that you're not making progress. Improvements and iterations can and will always be made as you gather feedback from your customers. So make sure you're putting progress before perfection. Designing a product to sell online isn't as hard as people think. Sure, it takes some practice, but what doesn't? The more time you spend on it, the better you're gonna get. It doesn't have to cost a lot and really only requires you to be creative and willing to work hard. If this was helpful, help me out by hitting that like button so the video gets shared and I get pumped to make more. Remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss the next one. Ask me any questions below in the comment section, and if you haven't seen my other video on how to decide what to sell, be sure to check it out in the video card link above. Until next time, good luck, work hard, and I'll see you in the next episode of Step by Step.